Welcome back and happy Tuesday. I know most of the times you see me on here, I talk about this week is going to be extra special and extra great. Well, every week is special and great in its own ways, but this week truly is monumental because, first of all, you may be wondering, the Tech Tuesday logo, purple and gold. I'm in orange. I don't think any of you've ever seen me in orange. I don't really have much orange in my wardrobe, but I'm wearing orange today, as is my guest, i.e., my co-author for our book in Sophie Jabot. So say hi, Sophie.
Hey guys.
So Sophie and I are wearing orange. It is intentional, I'm not going to lie. This Tech Tuesday is going to be all about embedded finance. And the big news is we have written a book on embedded finance. It's available on Amazon. We'll share that stuff later. But really, this is going to be a little bit different Tech Tuesday than the rest, and that we're going to just kind of have a conversation about why you wrote the book and where we see the opportunity. So, without further ado, Sophie, for you and only you, would I wear orange? By the way, what I have not yet said is the book cover is orange, hence why the orange. Orange is not my color, but I'm doing it for you, girlfriend. So we're here and we're making it. It is your favorite color, though, so we're good. And okay, so Soph, you've actually been on Tech Tuesday before, a few years ago, in fact. So you and I have had the pleasure of being friends for a number of years. And in fact, I think the first official time that we met was almost exactly 3 years ago
Yes.
at Money 2020 Europe, which actually, as I say that, I quite literally have goosebumps because life has a way of coming full circle, and that the book will first be released to the public at Money 2020 Europe exactly 3 years later, which is quite exciting. From my perspective, from the very first moment that we met, there was just an instant connection and bond. And even though two women from totally different parts of the planet, totally different, we were in the same industry, but different parts of the industry doing different things, and there was just an immediate connection. And I knew, sounds cheesy, but I was like, this is one that I'm going to be close with for some time, and ended up writing a book with. So what were your thoughts of those early days?
And what an adventure. No, like I felt exactly the same. I actually never saw myself honestly as an author, but I think like you were the one coming up with the idea, and it has been definitely quite a big adventure, but an exciting one as well. I like, yeah.
And when I think back to it, because I had thought about the idea of writing a book for some time, um, but there's so many different ways to go about that. And at that time, you and I were talking on a pretty much weekly basis. There's just a lot going on in the world, a lot going on personally. And can you just talk a little bit about how
Yes.
you got to embedded finance being the topic of what you thought that we should do together? And really, when did you we have pretty strong and bold predictions talking about the impact of embedded finance for the world. So I'm just curious, when did Sophie believe that embedded finance will change the world? What was your thought process?
Yeah. So, like, just going back a bit to what I did for the past 10 years, I literally like surfed that wave, right? Doing banking as a service, like in different companies, and like just seeing that, well, that's basically like financial services was available to fintechs and then to kind of banks. And the next stage was really like brands. So like I was seeing that coming for some time, but I think like literally the day I got the most excited, and I really remember writing a LinkedIn post about it because I just lost it looking at Grab financial results and seeing that actually financial services had become equal to food delivery and transport. That's monumental for me. That was like the change, that like the magnitude that financial services could represent for those brands, there was no way back. And like we had also discussions later on, the two of us with Tree from Shopify, and the same like thing was happening. I also even remember Tree at like the city symposium when I interviewed her, asking her, hey, is Shopify a fintech? And she was like, yes, absolutely. And so for me, there was no way back, basically.
Yeah, and those are such great examples. For me, it was, coming from someone coming not from this industry in a immediate way for the beginning time. I was a tech entrepreneur turned, banker basically. Um, the impact of infrastructure, the moving into banking as a service, and all the things that enabled really is what started getting me passionate and excited. And then to see the applications for everyday individuals and how they didn't even realize all the fintech that they were utilizing in every single day felt like such a no-brainer to me. And I think that's like a really key part here. So obviously at the time, when we started coming with the idea of, okay, we knew this was the area that we wanted to focus on, there was a lot of work that had to be done before a publisher goes in and gives you the ability to publish a book. How were you thinking about who this book was for?
Yeah. So that was, I think, like the part where we brainstormed the most, right? Like back in the days, because like it's a topic that will affect so many people. Basically, everybody across the globe will be, whether they want it or not, be affected by it. And I think, like for like one of the big example we are mentioning in the book is like the Amazon store, right, where you go in and you go out and you have paid, but you have done nothing else than you haven't queued or anything like that. So it was really showing that it could be for kind of like tech curious people that would just like be very interested in a phenomenon, but also like, well, brand executives or tech executives, people looking up to Grab and Shopify and so many other like examples. And finally, like even people from that are much more deep down into our industry already, from fintech, like really understanding like maybe how they can actually position their company in during that like in that wave basically. And so like you, what was it about? Like how did you see that?
So, it was interesting because obviously we live in the world of fintech and financial services, and that's where a lot of my and our relationships are. But I have so many versions of my life pre fintech and people from across industries and across spectrums who know me. And they often ask like what the heck it is that I do. And so, it was kind of looking at that market opportunity to say, yes, of course, this is relevant to our industry. But really, I think you said it best earlier. We're thinking about the tech curious and people who have heard of these concepts, seen some stuff on the news, but don't really fully understand that where the opportunities lie, because there is a monumental. I mean, you talked about Grab and what you saw when you saw the financials of it, and that's just the beginning. Like there's just so much opportunities. And so for me, it was really a book for anyone who's interested in the future of technology, which given where we are as a world, as a society, makes a lot of sense. And if you also think about the impact of financial services and how that moves the world and the economy, the two just feels like this like perfect connection point. So that was what was in my head.
And so what's your favorite part of the book?
Good question. I'm still kind of like looking back at the battle scars from all the late nights and weekends of draft versions back and forth between you and I. But of course there's I love the end, which is about the future consumer in 2030 and Mia, and you can talk a little bit more about her, Soph, because she's my favorite, and I love just thinking about that future perspective and thinking about how that's going to impact our kids as they go through things. But if I'm being very honest, probably the most effort was the chapter around the right ingredients are now in place. And if you remember, Soph, when we talked to a handful of different publishers in the earlier days before we chose the amazing Wiley, which we are so happy and supported by them, such a prestigious brand, which we feel really honored about. But a lot of publishers and didn't necessarily want that chapter. And for us, I mean, for me, I'll speak for myself, but I know you feel the same way. That was the one that took the most time because there was a lot of case studies and details in there. We did so many interviews, and so that's the one that I'm most proud of. I'd say my favorite is the last one, but that was the ones I'm most proud of because that is the one that's most for our industry. Like that chapter is for our industry. It's in depth, it's detailed. There's a lot of real use case examples because there's so much theory still to this day. Buzzwords, you will see buzzwords in the book, but it's really more about so much is about theory. We want to make it about practice and how people are actually doing things across the globe, across areas within financial services. So that's my favorite. But what about you? Where's your head at?
Yeah, like this one is definitely the one I enjoyed the most, because it was also like a good way to reflect back to the last 10 years and like seeing how things have evolved. And also where, like, again, banking as a service, like, which is closely related to embedded finance, because it's like very much well, the enabler of it, like seeing how it's starting really specializing, and that's going to be the next wave. I very much also enjoyed doing the research on the regulatory part, which is in this chapter as well, because like embedded finance cannot happen without like well, regulatory support, and we have like good frameworks across the world, like different directions, and this is very a part where I kept on learning. So I think like my heart is kind of very close to yours. I really enjoyed also the case studies, like basically interviewing people from the industry. And I think it's like a point you and I like made since the beginnings, that we wanted really the book to be super practical, like obviously like come with facts and numbers and like stories, but also like basically show what is embedded finance from the people doing it. And I'm very proud of like, and I think you are too, of what we have achieved. So it's something like basically you guys will be able to see in the coming months. Like we have like more than 30 interviews going on from plenty different people and perspectives. And yeah, I think it's what I'm the most proud of, actually.
I love that. All right. Well, Tech Tuesday is supposed to be short. This is a bit longer, so let's wrap it up. Maybe one final thought. Looking back now that the book piece is done, what surprised you most about writing a book?
I would say a couple things. Like the amount of reviews of the formatting, I think that's like, oh my god, like the I don't know, like all these different processes, like where like yeah, quite a lot. And the second part was like this discussion around paper shortage and the ability to deliver enough copies for Money 2020 and have the paper booked. So yeah, what about you?
It's not a surprise because I knew it, but just it took so much blood, sweat, and tears to actually accomplish. And as you said, we feel proud, but it was just a huge labor of love. And yeah, the amount of details that were required for the smallest things to make sure that they were as reflective as possible. So, yeah, and it was interesting, right? This may be not surprising, but I have the way that I look at the world, which in some ways is similar, but in many ways is quite different for how you look at the world. And so trying to take two authors' visions and ideas and make it come as one cohesive story was quite challenging. But I think that obviously we work well together. We knew that we would before we went down this endeavor. So just getting that and making it truly us was quite special. So yes. Anyways, happy to have had the journey with you.
Like,
For all of you, there'll be some more details below around embedded finance, why I believe that this is such an incredibly important opportunity, and now is the time to dig into it further. There will be the link to Amazon if you would like to go and pre-purchase the book. Please list your questions and Q&A. If we get enough of them, we'll probably get back on. We can do a LinkedIn Live or something, Soph, and really start addressing some of this. Otherwise, there's many more Tech Tuesdays to come. We got some nice people up on the roster for weeks ahead. And as always, we will see you next time.
bye, guys.